I remember back when I was watching the sub-OD arc of One Piece for the first time and seeing the scene where Shaki explains to the Straw Hats there is a person that has a higher bounty than Luffy. I was elated. I couldn't wait till we met this character who had a greater bounty than Luffy. How great could this character be to have a higher bounty than the great Luffy, whom we've seen do unthinkable things such as declaring war on the world government? Who is this character that outdid Luffy? We get to meet him and I wasn't disappointed. He had a sick character design, cool powers, and the personality contrast to Luffy I found compelling. And this character's name is Eustass Captain Kid. And I was really excited to see what this assumed rival of Luffy will bring to the table. And hundreds of chapters later, we got to that payoff, and I have to say that it left a lot to be desired in my opinion. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I talk all things manga and anime, and I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers, so would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get back into it. Kid in Sabo-OD left the impression of being Luffy's #1 rival besides Blackbeard. Blackbeard is a rival in the sense of him being a villain, like how Deku in My Hero Academia had a peer rival in Bakugo and a villain rival in Shigaraki. And I see Kid as how Bakugo was to Deku, a peer rival. This peer rivalry that was implied with Luffy in the Sabo-OD arc I thought was going to go somewhere, but it didn't, and I was very disappointed. Kid wants to be the Pirate King and find the One Piece, much like almost all the pirates in the One Piece world. And Kid used to be ridiculed for his dream, and he in return tortured and killed people who made fun of his dream. We were informed of that fact when Kid was telling it to Killer in the auction house back in the Sabo-OD arc. And Luffy is the exact opposite. We see in the Jaya arc when Bellamy and his crew were beating the crap out of Luffy and Zoro for their dreams, and Luffy understanding that there are some fights that are not worth fighting, which he obviously took note from Shanks. Kid punishes people who make fun of his dreams, and Luffy believes it's not worth giving his energy to people who do that, sort of stuff. This difference in ideology between them I thought would have been addressed in some shape or form at some point in the story, and it still hasn't happened, and less likely to happen the closer we get to the end of the final saga. And people who say that he is still a rival to Luffy, getting into food eating contests and weightlifting competition at Udon prison doesn't count as rivalry. But the most frustrating part is there were many instances in the story that made us believe that Kid was going to be a significant rival to Luffy, and again, it doesn't pay off. Such as the time we heard from Pickums in Fishman Island that Kid is attacking Big Mom's ships, giving us the impression that he is making big moves in the New World and thus he is a force to be reckoned with, while Luffy and Co were just getting into the New World. Even the time he got beat up by Kaido, he still had that aura of being a worthy rival to Luffy, because Luffy too didn't stand a chance against Kaido at that point in the story. And when Luffy got thrown into the cell next to Kid and the manga panel shows them side by side meeting Ice in the first act, and that panel was very reminiscent of the Kaido and Big Mom panel that showed them side by side when it was mentioned that each had a road poneglyph back in the Zou arc. This might be me just reaching, but it looked to me that Luffy and Kid were going to be the major players in the Wano arc, because it felt like Kid was going to finally get his shine, and this was further strengthened for me by the fact that Big Mom made an alliance with Kaido. Kid did get to fight and defeat Big Mom, but Law looked more impressive than Kid when fighting Big Mom, which leads me to my other point. It feels like Oda changed his plans of developing Kid in favor of Trafalgar D. Water Law. I expected Kid to be the Whitebeard for Luffy. You know how Whitebeard was a rival to Roger but in a friendly way? I thought Luffy and Kid were going to be the two Yonko emerging out of Wano. And I know what some One Piece fans are going to say, Just because your headcanon was wrong, it doesn't mean it was bad writing. But I feel like Oda was leading to all the things I mentioned, and what derailed it all was the unexpected rise in popularity of Law. Law was very popular after Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, and even came out second in the One Piece popularity polls at that time, which even surprised Oda. And I'm of the belief that Oda saw this popularity of Law, then opted to make him shine more and scrapped some of the plans he had for Kid, because 99% of the time the seeds planted in One Piece come to fruition. And I'm very surprised we haven't seen a Kid flashback yet. You'd think we'll get at least a Kaido-esque flashback for him, but there is none. Oda depicts Kid as the character who takes L's. Kid might just be the character who's the antithesis to Luffy, in that he's going to always pale in comparison. Almost like a what-if character. You know how Obito in Naruto was Naruto if he didn't have the friend and mentors to support and guide him? In One Piece, Luffy would have been like Kid if he hadn't been mentored by Shanks and took every petty slight against him personally and wreaked havoc. And that's alright, but the reason why I have gripes with the character of Kid is that you don't feel sympathetic towards him, you just feel disappointed, and this is where I feel like a flashback would have helped in making us sentimental towards Kid. But damn, did I expect much from Kid. Maybe I'm judging too soon and the story of Kid is not finished yet and we might see him do grand things in the final saga, but for me, Kid has left a lot to be desired. Maybe it's Law who is supposed to be the Whitebeard to Luffy, but what are your thoughts? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and hit the notification button. Also, subscribe to the channel. And see you guys in the next one.